I didn't become a bit of a slag. I became a total slag.
Bacon bone, bacon bone, bacon bone, bacon 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 bone, bacon bone, bacon 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 bacon
Oh,
bacon
oh.
bone, bacon bone, bacon 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 bongo, bacon bacon bone, bacon bone, bacon
Hello,
bone.
welcome to the real world. No museums, no space stations, no wee worlds. Just simply two kings,
Seven the truth.
two kings and the truth,
Ça a l'air un peu acrobatique, mais il me semble que ça devrait réussir. J'espère que c'est vrai.
looking at some comics from a long time ago. Tell the
Exactly.
people about today's issues, as
Today's issue is issue 3 of the Simpsons comics, and that is all the prior research I have done. I am
I don't
in
think you
this,
need
other
any
than
more.
reading it. Well,
Tell us about the
I
cover.
consider,
Describe the cover and then continue with your sentence.
yes, deal. The cover is Bart and Lisa looking. Lisa's got a magnifying glass over her eye, and they look to be solving a mystery. And then there's some school-themed characters in black and white outline behind them, such as Rod and Todd, and Sherry and Terry, and Skinner and Edna,
Who's this
and
kid?
Ralphie.
What's he called?
Next question. I don't think he has a name. I think he's just an early Yellow Weasel's on there, though,
Really? Where's that one?
next to Bart. Next to Bart's face,
This guy?
down.
This guy?
Yes,
Really?
that is Yellow Weasel.
So, didn't this
Oh, my
was
research. My
intentional?
research was reading this in the 90s. No, I think unintentional, badly placed word comics. I would have moved it slightly over.
So
But it's
this
nice,
cover,
though.
but the cover was drawn by Bill Morrison, who pops up a lot. But the interior stories were a regular Steve and Cindy Vance, although the backup story, written by Vance and a young man called Dan Castellaneta.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Who is that? Is that
Who
Apu?
was that masked man? So, or Doe, should I say? Now, this is signed by Matt Groening, but Matt Groening did not do it, but it is signed by Bill Morrison, who did.
Yeah. Groening ships his name onto every single image.
It's
Whether
like
or not.
his logo, isn't it?
Yes, good for him.
Good for him. I'm always a bit suspicious of that, of putting your name as a logo on things you didn't do. But hey, when you're a multi-billionaire,
Yes, children, it would also lead children who are probably the, target audience of this particular form of media to just believe he drew it all.
fair enough. And we didn't really care back in the day. It didn't matter, did it? All that mattered is it gave us a good old laugh.
Exactly. I remember being asked a lot in primary school when I had Simpsons comics, and I drew a lot of Simpsons. When him who dies does Simpsons, are you going to do it?
When him what does, when him what does Simpsons does, are you going for do it? Well, the answer is still to be determined.
Possibly. I never
People of
said
Wigan.
no.
I don't believe I ever said no. This is not a reference to anything that I could
That's
find.
interesting.
I couldn't find any particular reference. The whole thing's got a film noir-ish vibe to it, but maybe it is a reference to some kind of movie poster or comic, but none that I know of. So, listeners, if you know, leave a hashtag in the comments.
Exactly. Tell us all.
So we
Tell us
begin.
all what's been missed.
We're in a splash page. Vance Morrison and Cindy Vance all had a go at this. The perplexing puzzle of the Springfield Puma, I believe the second Puma based.
Yeah, what did we look at? It was something to
Last
Leopold,
episode,
wasn't it?
It was Bart was vandalizing it. Got sent to prison in a Cool Hand Luke style
Oh, yeah,
parody.
of course.
But this time we see the shiny Puma. And Skinner is saying, feel good luck. Fearless Puma statue, symbol of eternal vigilant and sleeping guardian of our hallways. The stuff that school spirit is made of, and we see a puma kind of reaching out in the shadows. Now,
And this isn't the same issue.
No, this is a different issue.
This is, I know that, I just thought I'd rhetorically ask, but it's very weird to open two of your first 3 comics in a row with heavy, like, puma symbolism. It's not related to the show at all.
No, pretty obscure. It'd be interesting if they were like, let's approach Springfield from a different angle, a puma-based angle, a big cat-based angle, like we have Simone Jaguar and Hardy Panther.
The rest, exactly. Soichi, Inu dog.
So anyway, the reason why there is a big shadow light is because for some reason Willie is shining a light upon Skinner, who's saying, "Hurry up with that concertina, wire, Willie. I want our mascot safe while I'm away at the principal's convention, and get that light out of my face." So then maybe that follows up. Then maybe there's more continuity in this that we give them credit for. They're like, well, in the last episode, Bart robbed it, so clearly Skinner's motivated to put it behind barbed wire.
It does seem that way, which is very odd, as the even in a comic world, you've got even less need to carry the stories on from week to week or month to month.
Month to month. I'll tell you where you can string this bit of wire, you lace-wearing bottle baby, says William Groundskeeper, as he...
Yes, not bad.
Not bad. I suppose you're an expert, Willie. Carry on. Good heavens, has even faithful Willie turned against me? Ack, is thinking Willie. Skinner, now let down by the betrayal of Willie by doing exactly what he told him to. Mustn't let my guard down even for an instant. That disciplinarian of the year award is almost within my grasp. I better check in on our #1 trouble spot. Skinner walks into the classroom. How goes our little experiment in preemptive punishment, Mrs. Crabapple? It seems they have forced the Bart Simpson, who has done no wrong, to write his lines on the board. I'm not sure who it's punishing more, Bart or me, says Edna Crabapple.
Boo.
While Bart is writing, I will not run amok while Principal Skinner is away. He's acting strangely, even for him. I'd better keep an eye on him, says grumpy Edna Crabapple. And we see inside Skinner's head with a single drip of sweat coming down. She's acting rather peculiar. I'd better keep an eye on her.
Interesting first page. The main thing, I think we might have already said this, but the main benefit of these comics is to see thoughts that we do not get to see. I wonder how this would have played out. In the show, he would have just said this out loud, actually. It wouldn't have been, oh, well, we can't use this, because he would have just been thinking out loud. Same thing for Edna as the other guys, Troy McClure, Lionel, etc. That you can use Edna. They use Edna a lot anyway, but you can use Edna to your heart's content without having to get a special guest voice in. And I like her sort of like scruffy hair in the last panel. It's just sort of off.
Yes, it is a little bit just balanced on top of her head. In fact, the one before is a bit too cutesy, even for Edna, I'd say.
Yes. And I do like the writing has captured these three characters relatively well in page 1. The Willie line was very reminiscent of TV show Willie. Skinner's acting a bit too disciplinarian of the year, I think. It depends what season you get him on, but they can't decide whether Skinner's a loser or really successful at his job. So it just sort of flips between the two a little bit.
But this is 94, so we're talking season 4, season 5 Skinner.
Yeah. So maybe slightly more developed. Like season 5 is when you find out like the army background and stuff. So maybe it predates that slightly, and he's still a little bit. He's just a sort of straight-laced guy for a while, and then good at his job. Like when Bart has the school day off, and Skinner like chases him through the town, and it's done in like a kind of like scary chase way.
No classic images as of yet. The closest would be this half shot of Skinner's head with the sweat.
Yeah, nothing good so far. Nothing terrible, but nothing good. Nothing bad good either.
No.
Now we are in it's Skinner's hanging out of a window at the top of the elementary school, still thinking, I've worked for years to bring order to this school, and it's finally going to pay off. If there's any justice in this world, when that award is handed out tomorrow, it'll have Seymour J. Skinner inscribed on it. I'm in Tamzarian. And yet, on my own campus, I'm surrounded by treachery. Willie, Miss Crabapple, even that toadying little sycophant Martin Prince seemed a trifle insolent today. Accustomed as I am to the loneliness of command, I still long for a reliable confidant, but who? Wait, there is one man, he thinks, as he is watching Otto's just dancing in front of the bus. And some children are heading towards the bus, including Wendell, the girl who isn't Sherry or Terry but looks like them, and Yellow Weasel. And then Skinner is stood in front of a portrait of Lincoln, speaking to him. Honest Abe Linkletter. Oh, I get what's happened here. It's not Lincoln. It is the former school principal, apparently called Abe Linkletter. So, okay. He's talking to the picture now, Skinner. You were principal during the darkest days of our school's history, when the southern suburbs tried to secede from our old United School District. I need this is hard hitting comedy for kids. I need your guidance now, and then he realizes what he's doing and slaps his hand to his face. What am I doing? I'm talking to an inanimate object, as if this painting could speak to me, setting something up there. And just on a pink background, which is Bongo prominent. I am alone, says deflated Skinner walking down a blue corridor. This is the best panel so far.
Yeah, it's a Spider-Man thing.
Oh, is it when he's walking away from the mask?
Think so.
I'm alone, I have no one to turn to, except Mother, of course. I guess I've done all one man can do. Maybe the proud Puma spirit protect this. May the proud Puma spirit protect this fair institution during my absence. And then the portraits of Abe Linkletter and probably George Washington, D.C.
Shady Bedmore Wilkinson.
Exactly. Shady
Shady George Wilkinson.
Exactly. So these two people are now talking to each other. And they do just kind of look like, it looks like Lincoln, but it also looks like Skinner. And it looks like Washington, but it also looks like Skinner. I was going to say Chalmers at first, but it just also looks like Skinner, doesn't it?
A little bit.
What intonation was that about? Asks Lincoln. I don't know, Abe. I think old Spanky is losing it, which is interesting because that's what Agnes referred to him as in like season 1, but only that one time.
That's some deep cut right there.
Yes. So, I like that page. It was setting up some stuff to come. Still we're in issue 3, page 2, still no Simpsons family members. So I like the turn that this is taking.
Yeah. So later, it's nighttime. Later on, as darkness descends on Springfield, the moon is up, and we hear creak, tack, 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 as someone is moving across the floor, probably towards that panther. Several minutes past the hour at which Jimbo, Dolph, and Kearney habitually enter this establishment to badger my customers, says Indian man Apu. Are you doing the voice in your head?
Aren't we all?
Then you're as guilty as he is. There's a time for duff clock on the wall. Perhaps they've elected to perform their acts of mayhem elsewhere. Eesh. No, sigh. Without their patronage, I fear I will fail to meet my squishy sales quota. Cut to Springfield Library. Martin, it's 7:30. He's not here. Strange. The little prig never leaves before closing time. Excuse me. I do hope he's not ill. He's our only patron. And for a third one, Barney is on the cell phone on the wall, as I believe they're called. On the wall is written for a good time, call Edna K 555-1776. Leave your message at the sound of the beep. Hello, Edna. Edna, if you're there, pick up the phone. I'm ready for a good time. Also, it's a direct reference.
Yeah, I only just spotted that. Yeah, belch.
Yes.
And
so, but then Barney belches. By the way, 1776 is when the Declaration of Independence was. So there's a callback to the Lincoln, Washington.
Nice. It feels like in between issues 1 and 2, the Vances watched some episodes.
They watched some episodes, but they also got really tired, and so the quality of this Bongo is, I fear, at least 10% less good than the last.
I don't know. I'm seeing references. That Edna K thing is on the wall within the show at one point.
Really?
It happens a few times. This Edna's number being on a wall. And I feel like it's not something that she put there herself.
No, so there's just people think she's a slag.
Basically, yes. I didn't become a bit of a slag. I became a total slag.
Well, that's not really, that's not acceptable, even in the good old days of 1993.
No. So yeah, these three, this reminds me of the Alien episode with the X-Files guys. It just sort of shows random characters on a Friday night, sort of setting up that something's a bit off.
Yes.
And I do like that. It also, they kind of did it with Who Shot Mr. Burns, where they're looking around for people and they can't, place where people have gone.
Oh yeah, it's classic.
It's good. It's setting up that it could be anybody doing this stuff.
Absolutely. But it gets worse.
On page 4, we're back to blue being shadows again, which is nice. A simple way to tell us that it's dark.
Yes.
Click, squeak, says the onomatopoeia as the door opens, being forcibly opened. The puma's behind all that barbed wire. Someone has pliers. We do not know who. Then it cuts to Willie. No, it doesn't. It cuts to 4 Scottish people, potentially, who are not Willie, at the Springfield either rum or drum and bagpipe course. I'm assuming drum. but you don't know. It
I
would be
don't think
whiskey.
I don't think a D would fit on that drum. So I think it's rum.
I see. Where is Willie? He hadn't eaten afore missed rehearsal, says the one who looks the most like Willie. Two of them say ack, one of them says hoot for whatever
Racist.
reason.
Racist.
Owl, exactly. And then we cut to one of our favourites, eyebrowless Luan. It is time for your antihistamine nose drops Millhouse, which is funny. Millhouse, she questions. I bet he snuck over to Bart Simpson's house again, Luan thinks. The first time we've ever been inside the brain of Luan Van Houten. Bart, would you like some... never the last. Bart, would you like some dessert? I made floating island, Marge says as she opens the door to the Bart Simpson bedroom. Maybe he's visiting his friend Millhouse, Marge thinks. I do like that, again, sort of just sticking to... These characters feel like more like the actual Springfield characters, like Luan's sort of like shittiness towards Bart here in her head. Whereas Marge is just, oh, maybe he's at Millhouse's. Luan is doing, even just with the simple italics and bold over the word Bart Simpson's house, they've made
Very
it seem
judgmental.
Luan is judging and unhappy with that.
I do like this angry Willie clone.
Yeah, I like these Scottish people. We've just seen a lot of Scottish people in the episode that was just on. None of these four made it from what I can tell, but it also does sound like they live in Springfield, so that would make sense. Mind you, a lot of Springfielders made the trip.
So spoiler, Super Nintendo is dating Lunch Lady Dora.
Spoilers. I think I don't think it'll continue. I think it was just the gag was something like, oh, we're at a wedding. There's always some kind of weird couple. So I think it'll go away. Gil and Miss Hoover got married like a season ago, and they'd never referenced it again. So I don't know if that's still a thing either. So as of now, no. I think Dolmers. We'll keep our eye out, but it may be over before it began.
Maybe. So we see next morning Otto and Bart Simpson looking at the school. Wow, why is everyone outside? Maybe someone phoned in a bomb threat. But I didn't know anything about it. Bart walks over to very suspicious. Martin, what's going on, brain boy? It's a disaster, Bart. With Principal Skinner absent, no one came to open the building this morning. We're locked out. Woo, all right. School is cancelled. Noiseland Video Arcade, here I come. Can the celebration, I'm not going to CV. Can the celebration, Bart? Here comes Willie with the keys. Here comes Willie with the keys. Oh, man. He says, Willie turns up. Blasted mule fell in the pool again. Took me half an hour to haul the bullet-riddled carcass out of the... I don't know what that means.
Made me laugh. That's a first. I think it sounds like his mule fell in the pool and he shot it to death and then took the carcass out from the sounds of things.
Good lord. Never mind the colourful anecdotes, Willie. Just open the door so we can start class. We come in, gets a classic face-forward Bart and Martin and a woefully unprepared William groundskeeper.
Yes, face-forward Martin is very good. I feel like we see a few face-forward Martins in the Bongo world for some reason, and it always turns out great. Again, Martin, it clearly hasn't taken a lot for them to nail these characters this time round. I feel like we're with our Springfielders. Willie's shot a mule. Otto's talking about bomb threats. Martin's excited to get to class.
They've got all of their numbers.
Present.
Cindy, I knew once we got round to watching a couple of episodes, we'd get to the bottom of this.
Exactly. If you've got something to watch, Cindy Vance, go watch it. Next page, a big full page splash, and it is the barbed wire puma, wasn't it behind? So the locking away of it included just putting it behind barbed wires and leaving it in the hallway.
Exactly.
Not in a room in a basement, which it seemed like that's where it was at the start.
No,
somebody's
on plain view.
I see. That's very trusting. Somebody's stolen the puma, says generic Edna. Ark, says Willie in a slightly better. And then you see the heads of Martin, Bart, and Lewis. And that
spot of her where the puma wants to be is actually very cold.
Yeah, it's glowing as well. It's so cold, it's glowing. And the glow. My favourite thing about this panel is the lighting on the Edna and Willie faces.
The lighting on that Willie
is beautiful.
The glow of the absence of the puma is so strong, it's lighting up Willie and Edna's face.
Exactly. And it's yeah, it's fun that I like this. They should have done this in the show. This is a nice idea. Skinner goes away, so Edna and Willie have to just run the school. I would have been fully on board for that story.
The original odd couple.
Exactly.
Edna's scrunching up her hair. This is terrible. Skinner is almost fixated on the puma as he is on his mother. If we don't find it before he comes back, there'll be hectopare. I'm not saying that word. There'll be hectopare. He'll have me transferred to the Shudder East Springfield Vocational Training School. She decides the problem is with Willie. Well, if I have to go, I'm not taking the fall alone. See, come on, Willie. We got 24 hours. Let's find that effing puma. Couldn't. Couldn't he find? Ooh, there's some ooh noises. That pitiful wail, it sounds like the keeniness of a lost soul. That's a good Willie.
That is a good one.
Martin, lost soul, you mean a ghost? Bart, there's something strangely familiar about that sound. It's coming from over this way, says Edna. They did a very nice comic move where it's actually the same image, but they split it into 4 so that you can clearly focus on each image in one of the people in the panel.
Yes, I
Great
like
work,
that.
Vance.
Morrison.
Willie decides to attack the sounds with a pitchfork. Got him cornered now. What do we? Let's see how the devil likes to taste a cold Highland steel. Wait, Willie, no. Act is only a wee laddie. Ooh, it's Millhouse, hung upside down by his legs inside a locker. Millhouse, what are you doing in there? Jimbo stuffed me in here yesterday after school. I am milk drinking little panty waste. I should have skewered you when I had the chance. Oh, Willie. Edna says,
Unnecessary.
Absolutely unnecessary violence against an innocent child, but that's the Scottish for you.
It is. Orc.
So you were here all night, eh, Millhouse? Something tells me the 2 of you know what happened to that puma. I'm going to get the truth out of you, she threatened.
Nice. I'll tell you what I do like about this, and it is something that I've noticed happening in kind of modern Simpsons too, which is interesting. Just picking like 6 characters and having them like Martin now. Like Martin could have had a group of like 15 kids there and split the dialogue between them. But I kind of like when they just pick a little group of like they've got this group now of these 4. Lewis for some reason is knocking about, and then Millhouse now. And I like that it's just sort of, I don't know, it's easier to follow, and they seem to be doing this. Like if they don't focus on a family member, or if they do focus on a family member, they give them like 5 Towns members to play with. So I like that that's kind of happening here in Bongo World too. And I also like that last panel, Edna, with no teeth. My Edna's got no teeth.
How does she smell? That is a good toothless Edna.
Yes, and my only other point about this page is Willie. Willie's just
Willie, no.
almost killing Millhouse because his solution was to stab a pitchfork through a locker in his school, which is just it's correct.
That's his
And then he
upbringing.
doesn't back down. He says, "I wish I'd done it."
Well, let's see whether he gets a second chance. If it
Edna's
takes
lines
all
are-
afternoon.
Oh yes, that's a carry-on line. I like it when they do that as well. It's as if it's narration, but it's the continuation of the last line, but over the new panel. Weird upshot of Edna. Very good. Talk. Tell me where the puma is. And Bart and Millhouse have been tied to chairs by Edna and Willie, which again would probably, that's the quickest way of getting this done. Honest Mrs. Crabapple, we don't know anything about it, says one of the boys, probably Millhouse. Willie, what has your investigation turned? Willie says, there's a broken window at the back of the building. Any scurvy wight could ha entered there. I don't know what that means. It's white as in like the way they spell it in Game of Thrones for the zombies. I don't know.
Right. Or the Isle of Wight.
Yes, exactly. Edna, so the culprits broke in, eh? She says, which at this point should have just been a given. Nay, says Willie. The window was broken during the brawl on Parent-Teacher Cooperation Day. We had not had the money for a new bit of glass.
Oh, they've got the Scotch right down.
Oh yeah. I haven't been able to get anything out of these 2. You know what to do, Willie. Says I know she leaves the room. A very dark Willie says, aye, lassie, in shadows. That I do. Yah, screamed Bart and Millhouse as it cuts to a sinister red shot of the school outside, implying that horrible things are happening to these children by Willie, who almost just pitchforked one of them to death anyway. And then it cuts to an hour later. Edna returns. Well, boys, ready to talk. The hilarious gag being Willie has been playing Amazing Grace. Spoilers. Maud, probably. Again, on the bagpipes. and Bart Milhouse is still just screaming, "Yah!" "No, stop," says Bart. "I'll tell you everything you want to know. The place where we hid the puma is ... And then it appears they've sent Willie and Edna on some kind of wild goose chase, which they could have just done hours ago or an hour ago. Willie is in a vat of nuclear waste.
This is making me laugh, this picture. It's the best picture so far.
Sad Willie covered in waste, in nuclear
Heavy and
waste.
scabby, covered
Yes.
up to his chest in nuclear waste.
Yes, and he's saying, "No sign of it. I'm beginning to suspect those lads did not tell the truth," which is
Willie.
good. And in case of EPA, something break glass, it says on the wall.
The red. EPA is the Environmental Protection Agency.
Oh, yes. I see. And I
We
like that
don't
last
see
Edna
that
as well,
kind
just
of.
looking up at sad nuclear waste Willie is quite good as well.
The best Willie so far.
Yes.
Look at them eyes.
Sad Pem and Skeff.
So the boys have been let out, and Milhouse is on his way back home. Boy, am I glad we managed to scrum out of those ropes before Mrs. Krabappel and Willie go back. They're going to be real mad when I'm worried about what they'll do to us tomorrow. Don't worry, we will have it all blown over by then. But just in case, I better start practicing my flu-like symptoms, says
I think it's pronounced Simpsons.
Thursday Archer, murder links, and Wendell is creeping behind him and watching him from the shadows. Hey, you. Oh, Wendell, what is it? The fat boy wants to see you, says a face-forward Wendell. Pal, come with me. Says who? Ulp, says my pal Roscoe here. Make up your mind quick. My trigger finger's getting itchy as Wendell is holding a water pistol faced at Bart Simpson. Oh man, the cheaper the crook, the gaudier the patter. Whatever that means. Classic. Well done. Well done, Vance. Soon we see an arm that is surely Homer Simpson's arm.
No.
And a tray with some Buzz Cola on it. Solid cola. And
Yeah,
Wendell,
it's go on, sorry.
Spoiler. Come in, Mr. Simpson, come in. You, the fat boy. I should have guessed, says Bart to his own father.
Naturally, yes. I can see why you would think it was going to be Homer, because this is a Simpsons comic, but given that Wendell has been used before as the henchman of Martin within the show, I kind of saw this coming a bit. But I do like that we're in a world where Wendell's got 3 panels of dialogue and we haven't even seen Homer, Marge, Lisa, or Maggie.
Very good.
But it wasn't, the fat boy was in fact Martin Prince. I trust that Wendell, this is a great image of Martin kind of looking like Brando. Yeah. I trust that Wendell was properly courteous when extending my invitation. Please sit down, sir. It also works well for Martin, and they haven't done it intentionally, but he's got like the cotton ball mouth that's kind of Brando-ish from The Godfather with the stuffed hamster cheeks, but it's just Martin's character already.
Normal cheek.
Yes. Why'd you drag me down here, Martin? Always to the point, Mr. Simpson. Egad, sir, you are a remarkable character. I like the word egad. I don't think it gets used enough anymore. I dragged you here to discuss the Springfield Puma. If this was my comic, I would have cut back to Bart being in full drag for one panel, but it wouldn't have added anything to the quality.
And if it was a Family Guy episode, they would have cut away from being in full drag for like 2 minutes and probably like farting through his drag dress.
Picking up that toad out the window. What do you care about that thing? It's just a stupid plaster statue, says Bart to Milhouse. No, ka-ching, Martin. On the contrary, my friend, says Martin, my historical research has revealed the true nature of the puma. It is a jewel-encrusted treasure created years ago by the Springfield Knights of Jebediah. It was to be sent to Capital City as a prize in the charity raffle, but the puma never reached its destination. It somehow wound up instead in a school corridor ignored for years, its value masked by a coat of grey paint. I was determined to gain possession of the puma, remove the paint, and present the statue to the city on Jebediah Springfield Day. I would have been hailed as a civic hero. Imagine the future generations of Springfieldians studying my exploits in plot, perhaps even celebrating Martin Prince Day. It's a lot of dialogue. This is a lot. This is way more than what he would have said in the show. He would have just said, oh, the statue's bad.
Did you just say plot instead of school?
Did I?
Yeah.
Studying my exploits. Possibly. I think I might have been thinking of the word plot. My exploits in school, perhaps even celebrating Martin Prince Day.
Plot. Martin Plot.
Plot.
Martin Plot.
Plot. To this end, I enlisted the aid of one Jimbo Jones. Not an ideal plot, perhaps, but he possessed the ability to acquire the statue by any means necessary, partner. But now, just as I am poised to take my place in Springfield history, the puma vanishes. Perhaps Jimbo has double-crossed me, but I believe you know where the puma is. I suggest you join forces with me. I'll give you 12 hours to think it over, and your answer had better be yes. Show our visitor to the door, Wendell, and Bert is thrown out of what appears to be Martin's apartment. Which again, it's better to not ask questions. I carumba, says classic Bart in his head. I think Martin's gone off the deep end. What the heck was all that about?
Well,
Great work. I like the door slamming. Some good Martin stuff here.
good
Bongo,
Martin stuff.
I think this is where Bongo is going to come into its own, isn't it? With the non-Simpson family members, we're going to see a lot of inner thoughts and, like 6-panel monologues from characters that you wouldn't have thought.
More Inner Martin, please.
Yes. You can't even hear the Indian accents in this.
Next, we zoom out on a pretty nice shadowy long picture of Simpson's house, and Bart is saying, this thing's getting too deep for me. I'm going to need help figuring it all out, fortunately. So Lisa is, I know the person to turn to for sympathy. Home from detention so soon, Bart, it's hardly even dark yet, she scoffed. She is reading the book The Maltese Falcon, which is a Dashiell Hammett book that was made into a famous movie starring Humphrey Bogart, where they're searching for a gold kind of statue that's a little falcon.
Oh, so this Bongo issue.
Basically, this Bongo issue. But
I also like that that's what's happening here, isn't it? They just thought we'll just do a movie parody every week, but not like not a movie that's like currently big, or like we're not going to do Jurassic Park.
No,
we're going to do movies where people don't realize we're even parodying anything.
These 5-year-olds that are reading it they ain't never even seen No Bogey.
Exactly. Welcome to the episode, Lisa. 45 minutes in.
I've seen it, and I thought it was a good film, but a long time ago.
I've eaten Maltesers, and I have seen a falcon.
Have you ever seen a falcon eat Maltesers?
I have not. Does that happen in the movie?
Yes.
Toilet crow.
Cheeky bastard.
Yes. Aye.
I'm in trouble, Lisa. Hee. I'll say. I bet this time Skinner's going to ask the judge to try you like an adult. It's not just that. Let me tell you the rest. Several minutes later. So if I help Martin to find the puma, I'll be going against Jimbo, but if the statue isn't from by tomorrow, I'll be doing detention till I'm 80, says Bart. Lisa sat on the bed judging him, says, well, Bart, someday you'll have to learn that your actions have consequences. Perhaps this is the day. Lisa, I didn't come to you to hear about learning stuff. Don't you understand? Bart, don't do it, says Bart. Lisa says, come on, Bart, no one's laughing at that one anymore. You've used up every ploy in the book to avoid taking responsibility for yourself. Now, why should I believe you? Lisa, this is your only brother talking. I'm in trouble and I need your help, please. She thinks, wow, raw emotional honesty. The one old ploy you haven't overused. You even said the magic word. Come on, Bart. The game is afoot.
I'd argue that now, in like 35 seasons in, it's probably the raw emotional honesty probably has also become overused. But I do like, again, they must have watched a handful of episodes, because that's I Didn't Do It is from that episode when he gets famous for he does something on the Krusty show by accident, like causes a big accident, and then just says I didn't do it, and everybody loves it.
Nobody saw me do it. You can't prove anything.
Exactly. Then he becomes the I didn't do it boy. So I like that there's a little reference to Lisa saying that, come on, like nobody likes that anymore.
It's definitely not a coincidence.
It is not, I believe. It says your microphone's muted here.
It is. I just muted it.
Oh.
I'm eating a Kit Kat.
I see. That'll not go well for the podcast. I like the shadow. Again, just.
Am I good for you the night?
Yes, I go shut the window, Sam. The window is the reflection or the light coming through the window is like showing on Bart when they're in Lisa's room, which is quite cool.
Yeah, pretty good.
It was unnecessary as well. Like it wasn't. Somebody's just done that because they wanted to and they thought it would look good, and it does.
Wild.
Vance has gone wild. Vance is on tour.
Vance is on toast.
Yes, no toast.
No Vance for you.
Yes. I'll do the next page so you can eat more of that Kit Kat.
Finished now.
Yes. I see. Get a second one.
Yeah,
it's time for. I see. Time for a break. Lisa, they're now at the Quickie Mart exterior. Lisa says the first thing we've got to do is figure out who our suspects are and start gathering information about their activities last night when the Puma was stolen.
Move.
And Jimbo, Dolph, and Kearney always hang out here. Their first choice is Jimbo, Dolph, and Kearney, which is, yes, if you're not going to pick Bart, it's going to be them three and then Nelson, isn't it? So
Yeah.
they go into the Quickie Mart to find out some info from regular man Apu, panelled man Apu. Evening, Apu, my man. Give me the usual, says Bart to friendly, weirdly bent-nosed Apu. One jumbo red syrup squishy. Shit, I'll not do the voice. Shaking, not
voice.
stirred, coming right up, says Apu. And here come our prime suspects right on time. This will be easy. These guys will never suspect they're being followed, thinks Bart as a brilliant-faced Jimbo. And then also Dolphin Kearney are entering the Quickie Mart establishment.
That's a man who's already had a couple of squishes.
Yes, he's all squished up.
And
and Bart is continuing to think, I just hope Lisa's doing okay. I don't know, I didn't do these things together, but Scree says what I assume is a window being opened as Lisa opens a window. Here's the broken window Bart heard about. I figured the wheels of the bureaucracy would grind too slowly for it to have been repaired, which is the second time they've made that joke now. They can't afford to fix the window. Now let's see if Skinner himself has any evidence to show who would have taken his Puma. Thinks
he
Lisa
definitely stole it himself, didn't he?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Also, I read the story.
Oh, nice. Either that or Agnes. Yeah, the Lisas on these two panels are great. You've got a full Lisa in shadow, where just her eyes are visible, which is that's an early season Simpson thing as well. Where you just sort of sometimes, apparently, maybe their eyes are luminous. Yeah, sometimes it'll just, I think it was animation-wise to save money, but they would just, Homer and Marge would be in bed talking, and it would just be their eyes to save
a couple of quid on the yellow paint.
Yes. And then Lisa dawns upon the door of Seymour Skinner, and her shadow is presented across the front of that as well in a very cool fashion.
Very good. And so we're deep into Shadowland, and Lisa is in the office saying, wow, alone in Skinner's office is a good thing I didn't bring Bard. The temptation might have been too much for him to curl one out on the desk. Now, where would Miss Marple look first? She says, oh, someone's coming. I've got to hide. Gasp, it can't be. Lisa is hid behind the desk in shadow as the light comes from the door. Squeak. It's Miss Elizabeth Hoover. And Lisa's hiding behind the bin with her nose in the bin, saying, it's Miss Hoover. What's my favorite teacher doing here? She's taking a file. Removal of school property is a serious offense. Wow, she's gone. She never noticed. I guess it's safe too. Hey, what's this? As she finds literally the very top piece of paper on the bin.
Yes, I like this. I like this focus on Hoover. That Hoover shadow, great.
Great shadow work all in all.
Yeah, the whole 6 panels of this are all entirely blue as well, which is just fun. It sort of reminds me of that first Treehouse of Horror when they end up on the spaceship and there's a lot of red and blue and green sort of shadows being used.
Bongo's good at that stuff.
Yeah, and I like the Hooverisms. The only thing I argue with is that she can't possibly be Lisa's favourite teacher.
Who is Lisa's favourite teacher?
I assume none of them. Probably Lisa.
All of the above.
Yes. At a push, I don't know, maybe at a push it is Hoover, but I'd say Edna cares more than Hoover. And I think Lisa would recognise that in the women.
I don't think so.
Miss Hoover just, Miss Hoover, I'd say, dislikes the children more.
Right? No.
So, yeah, way more. I think Edna would be way more tolerable to Ralph, and Hoover doesn't care when Ralph gets shot through the ceiling with oil.
Right?
Yeah, I would argue that. Now we have what paper Lisa has, and I do like that it's all like coffee stained and crumpled. It's nice.
Good.
It's Skinner's enemies list, says Lisa. Apparently all these people have reasons for wanting to strike at him. The list being Bart Simpson, Jimbo Jones, Dolph and Kearney, Nelson Muntz, Groundskeeper Willie, Lunchroom Lady Doris, interesting, Ms. Crabapple, Superintendent Chalmers, Mr. Largo, Mother.
Obvious.
Maybe this might predate Leopold as well.
I would argue that that's 11.
It is 11. You can't just... Dolph and Kearney don't deserve the shunting together here.
No,
They're both their individual villains.
exactly.
I found it in his wastebasket. He must have thrown this copy away because he spilled coffee on it, cleverly, says Lisa with big chubby fingers. Wow, everybody's on it. Jimbo, Miss Krabappel, Doris, the lunchroom lady. And even against competition of this high caliber, I'm still number one. I feel honoured, says Bart with a chubby smile on his face.
Toothless. They're both toothless.
I repeat. I do like that as well. It's sort of, they're not... That's how I kind of draw the Simpsons, weirdly, is that their eyes aren't touching. Where normally the traditional way to draw them is that their eyes and the nose all touch. But I tend to draw it with a gap for some reason, and I just think it looks kind of cooler.
It's the angle,
So,
isn't it?
Yeah,
You've got
happy
like
with it.
a 20, and they do more like a 45.
Yes, happy with it. And then we go to something else. Lisa saying, but this only adds to our list of suspects. What did you find out? She poses at Bart with her pineapple head on show. Nothing, says Bart. Jimbo, Dolph and Kearney spent the whole night stuffing old tyres into the coolant intake vents at the nuclear power plant. No sign of the Puma. What do we do now? And then Lisa says, we do what Inspector Poirot would do.
Rot.
We round up all the suspects and grill them. First, we'll make use of the voice disguising skill you've honed through years of prank phone calls.
Brilliant.
Which is, okay, sure.
A stretch.
Yes, to say the least. These are very generic Bart and Lisas. These aren't doing much for me.
No.
Generic Bart and Lisa, generic background. These are just exposition panels at the finest.
But now we cut to the prank calls of Bart. Ack, what's that you say, you mealy-mouthed blatherer? And Willie is shopping for a new mule. Mules are us 94 catalog. She's good.
He's also surrounded by manure.
Bags full of manure. Jimbo Jones, angry Jimbo Jones, the principal's office, but I didn't do nothing yet. And he's got a whole bunch of army surplus, export-only M80s. And he's reading Vandalism Monthly with cherry bombs. M80s, more bang for your suck.
Yes, odd.
Martin Prince is reading a magazine called Nerd that has a full back page calculator advert.
Nice. Dave.
He's got an alien history book there as well. 137 pocket continued projectors rated. Core that. What is it? A reception for our beloved principal on his return?
What's on the desk?
Highlighter.
Oh, yes.
Lunchroom Lady Doris is having a good old smoke reading Cafeteria Special. Lunchroom hunks hit the beach, she says. Has got a chubby man with a spatula on her magazine, but she's got a cordless and she's like, before school, listen, whoever you are, I don't come in before mid-morning milk break for nobody. Reading in bed, Hoover, who is this? What's this all about? And she's reading a magazine called Nerves, the magazine for high-strung woman. Improve your fretting technique. I like that one. Those magazines are all cool. I'd read all of them.
Yeah, all good. Good running gag.
Yeah, and so then Edna's in the bath, and she's got an answering machine right next to her bath. So if you really want to know what happened to the Puma in Skinner's office, be in Skinner's office tomorrow morning before school, and the culprit will be revealed. I already know who the culprit is. Just wait till I get my hands on that thieving little Bart Simpson, she says. She's reading Edwardian Secrets magazine. But my problem here is the bottom of the magazine is into the bubbles, and surely that would ruin the magazine instantly.
It seems that way, doesn't it? It's also, unless she's laminated it. 2 points about this. The Doris and the Hoover here, where we are, whoever in relation to us, the Mordcast hosts are, met those two in Bongo Springfield.
Nice.
Specifically those two images because of the pen and scanning.
Exactly. There's a proper P&S going on there.
Yeah, and they do this thing, Doris and Hoover's hair, both kind of incorrectly coloured, like we've seen with Rod Flanders before. But it's like, it seems like they can't do dark brown for some reason. It seems with like both of those hairstyles should be, but they've done it there with like Jimbo. And yeah, Martin's hair is too dark.
Getting purple. Yeah.
Yes. And I like that all the magazines are character relevant except for Edna's, which is just completely
Edwardian
obscure.
Secrets just makes no sense, does it?
No, the rest of them are all somewhat character related, and then Edna has Edwardian Secrets. Just odd. Now we are back in the meeting has been called. They're back in the school the next morning. Edna slams into the office. It does look like Doris didn't attend as well, which is good. Keeping in character, she was just like, no, I'm not going to do that.
No.
That's too early for me. So Edna's, all right, Bart, this is your last chance. Principal Skinner will be back any minute. What have you done with that puma? I didn't, Bart begins. He's surrounded by Nelson, Milhouse, Jimbo, Martin, and also Willie and Hoover are present. Wait, says somebody in Skinner's chair with Lisa's hair. Bart isn't the only suspect here, Mrs. Krabappel, Lisa says as she sits in a freezing cold chair. Well, which of these hooligans was it then? Says Edna. Back sort of three-quarter Edna, which is great. It could be any of them or none of them. It could
Good
have
Jimbo.
even... It is a good... Jimbo's all over the place this week. It could be any of them or none of them. That's a bit weak. It could have even been you, Mrs. Krabappel, says a pointy finger Lisa, with a big arm.
Big arm.
Why, all of all the... That's outrageous, says another great Edna, weirdly sort of just off. No, it isn't, says Lisa. We've been unable to establish what any of you were at the time of the crime, and everyone in this room has a motive for stealing the puma. What motive, says Edna? Why would I do such a thing? Which is fair, really.
Fair.
I don't see what Edna would gain from this.
Nobody would, other than Martin's the only one knows that it's anything other than a normal puma. You've long resented Skinner's position of power, which you feel he don't deserve. Aye, it is true, says Willie. Many's the day I've had to list to your belly aching. She was the one who done it all right. Not so fast, Willie. You weren't exactly in love with Skinner yourself. We've all heard you complaining about him making you polish that statue every day. It's true, disposing of the puma, says Lisa, would have you both rid of this unpleasant duty and struck a blow against the man who made you perform it. Ah, says Willie. A lot of exposition in this episode.
Yeah.
This issue. You may not have the last laugh, Nelson. After all, Skinner made you serve countless detentions, so of course you feel a deep-scented enmity towards him. Emna what? Martin just stood, soaking it all in there in the background. It means dislike, hostility, even hatred, you unlearned oaf.
Martin's great in this issue. I like the middle Martin as well, where he's just pem and skemming at Nelson. Yeah, I like this sort of infighting as well now, the Edna v Willie stuff. It's all it all tracks.
Oh yeah.
I just think this is, considering the amount of dialogue, this would have actually worked better as an episode. But it's maybe we haven't looked far enough ahead to say it's not a dialogue heavy comic.
No, we have not. We could be in for hours and hours of just reading page after page of dialogue.
Exactly. Such as
Brilliant.
this one. Lisa looking like a knockoff Ullman Lisa, says, as for you, Martin, your knee-jerk respect for authority would seem to rule you out as a suspect at first glance. But Bart has told me about your little scheme and about your involvement, Jimbo. I don't know nothing, except that this punk didn't deliver, says Toothy Jimbo. And you, Miss Hoover, continues Lisa, I checked the school district's computer database and learned what was in that file you stole. It was your own personnel record. But to the nervous, sort of leaning forward Hoover, including the fact that your beloved great aunt was mauled by a puma when you were a child. Okay, we're going to have to bank that information for the Hoover cast.
Yes.
Perhaps you seize the opportunity to dispose of our school mascot, an ever-present reminder of that awful tragedy. That's a very left field way to bring Hoover into the story.
Yes, indeed.
But possibly my favourite way that anybody's been brought into this story so far. Bart then interrupts. Lisa, you've gone all the way around the room and we still don't know who took the statue.
How about this Krabappel?
Krabappel's just checked out of the conversation mentally. She's just not interested. She's snozzed. Sloshed.
He's sloshed, isn't she? That second cup of vodka detergent is kicking in.
Precisely. Maybe you don't, Bart, but after carefully analysing all the clues, I know who did it, says Lisa Simpson, Springfield's answer to a question no one asked. And that person is, says Lisa,
Principal Skinner. Given his obsessive concern for the well-being of the mascot and his mistrust of all, I deduced he took the puma with him for safekeeping proper. He's had more than a couple of sloshes of Drano. What are you doing in my office? He says, armful of puma. How was the conference, Seymour? Another great quibble there. I was a sham, a mockery. Those small-minded fools think they can buy my silent acquiescence with a third runner-up certificate, but I know that vote was rigged, and I won't hold my tongue forever. He will, put this noble creature back in the casket.
Yeah, looks like he's been ingesting horse tranquilizer for the last 3 days.
he looks frail and nervous.
Yeah, he just looks like done would be the word. Like he's had a weekend and now he's got to get back to his real life and he's just not doing it very well.
No, and he's got an arm full of puma.
Yes.
But they created the noble creature back on its pedestal where it belongs and give it a good polishing. Like, come on, people, let's rise above my personal calamity. We've got a school to run here. You did it, Lisa. You saved me. That was great detective work. It was elementary, my dear Bart. Springfield Elementary. Hee hee. Hee hee. I don't get it. Just like all of the other references in this issue, says Bart. Just then, Martin launches his plan. At last, my hour of triumph is at hand. Now to remove the layer of paint and uncover the treasure which lies beneath. Plaster. Nothing but worthless plaster, and I was so sure. My apologies, gentlemen. It appears my research was in error. I trust you understand. I share your disappointment, gentlemen, but I question your means of expressing it. Gentlemen, hello? He has been put inside a locker by Jimbo Jones and Co.
Yes. Look at that Kearney.
Angry.
Dolph. Look at that Kearney.
Toothy. Toothless.
That's sort of a weak meandering ending to this story, which is a shame. And it's also, I know we can't really spend a lot of time questioning logic with these things, but why did he break back into the school and steal it? Why didn't he just say to Willie, I'm going to take this with me? So that's something they should have addressed in panel, I think. They could have cut out that Lisa joke to make room for it. Does the ending also imply that, I don't think it does, I think I'm just creating a story here, but that the actual Puma has been stolen and replaced with a plaster one, or is it just that Martin was wrong in the first place and that never happened?
Martin was wrong because the Maltese Falcon, I think, is also based on him being sold like a fake at the end. Spoiler.
I see. Spoilers. Yeah. I think that's my favorite.
When you
story
do a spoiler for an old film, you have to say spoilers for a 50-year-old film. Still a spoiler,
exactly.
mate.
Who is his father? Yeah, I think this has been my favorite of the 3 issues so far in terms of story and character use. And again, that's the entire story's done. And Homer, Marge, and Maggie have not appeared at all.
Marge has appeared, and even better, it was discussed earlier. She wondered where Bart was, and whether he was at Millhouse's.
Which wouldn't be that weird if it was issue like 70. But it's issue 3, and this happened last time with the Cool and Bart stuff. Like Homer and Marge had like a B story in that Patty and Selma comic towards the end, but they weren't in the main story there either. So maybe the plan is here. We'll do the Homer and Marge stories for the show where we have a slightly older audience and we'll throw a lot of Bart and Lisa stories into the comic so it feels more kid-esque.
Because don't forget, there was also a Bartman comic came out at the same time alongside Itchy and Scratch, and then later a Bart Simpsons comic. So clearly they were focusing on the youthful audience identifying with Bart and the TV audience identifying with jerk-ass Homer.
In the year 1995, children stopped eating ham. Buddy.
So let's get to the backup story, which is Krusty, Agent of Clown.
So is he Nick Fury here? I'm assuming just from the eye patch.
It's a very specific reference to a famous Jim Steranko Nick Fury cover, which is like pretty much the most famous Nick Fury cover. They did a few like proper psychedelic Fury issues back in '66, long time ago, and yeah, I always loved this one, and it's been parodied many times, but they do a really good job of it.
It's also, I do like that just within the Marvel world, that it's very Mordcasty to start doing a full comic series about one of the only like humans who doesn't have superpowers.
Yeah, and who have we got on the front? We've got Sideshow Mel with the seltzer bottle and Mr. Cigarette. And who's the woman?
This is the very often forgotten, I think she's called something that isn't Miss Moneypenny, but it's very adjacent, like Candy Money or Penny Candy or something.
In this issue or even in the show?
In the show, she's Krusty's like assistant, but she she basically got phased out. I don't know why. We're going to clearly be taking a deeper dive into this character. But all I really remember is she's more prominent in the comics. Or like I kind of remember her from the comics a bit more. Maybe it's like specific issues that I remember, and I have very little to no memory. She's Krusty's assistant in like season 3 or 4 or something in the show, and then gets like used as that role and it's just because there is no female character to associate with Krusty, basically.
No,
Never established anybody.
it's a
If
great.
it was now, they might use his daughter, Sophie, played by Natasha Lyonne.
Right. I think they're also referencing this cover of Nick Fury, maybe. But anyway, there's a couple, and it's a great, yeah, it's a good one. It's a great cover. Again, Morrison under the guise of what's his name, and like I said, written by Castellaneta and Van, which is interesting. But obviously, like, they couldn't push it like, hey kids, it's the voice of Homer Simpson. He's wrote this comic. They were like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
With this,
what do you mean
with this reference to some comic from 50 years ago.
Exactly. It is interesting that it seems to be, like I say, like children adjacent, but with a lot of references to old movies and old comics and things that
this was always the case, though.
Yeah, Simpsons in itself, isn't it? Like, there's things in there that only adults will understand, whilst children can enjoy the silliness.
No, it was weird for me when I was growing up and I would read the comics that were from the early 80s, the English comics, and they would be like monsters that were puns on you. It was clear they were puns on movie stars, but they were movie stars of like the 50s. Like, I remember Hedley Lamarr, who was a famous actress, but I only ever knew anything about her because they would consistently make jokes about her in these comics, because I think like it was like her name sounds a bit like you could use it in like a monster kind of thing.
Of that same sort of thing, I'd say like 80%, maybe even more, maybe 90 of culture prior to me being born comes from me, like Simpsons references as a kid that I just didn't understand. Like, there's some like people's names who I know, like you just said with the heady thing. Like, there's a lot of famous names that I know because they got name dropped or referenced on The Simpsons, and I didn't understand the joke. Like the Eudora Welchie. There's a lot of people like just sort of, and like even movies like Doctor Strangelove, etc. If I ever saw an old movie, there's always something in it where I'd be like, oh, I recognize that from The Simpsons.
From The Simpsons TV show and comics. Yeah, this is exactly a great splash page where proper Nick Fury costumed Krusty, and we've got to remember, like, in 94, this predates the Avengers films by 20 years, right? No, 25. Not quite. But yeah. So
Samuel L. Jackson wasn't even born.
Wasn't even born. Nick Fury was still white in 1994. But yeah, so it's a pretty, like, nobody would have got that reference who wasn't a comic book reader. But
no, I can safely say I didn't. The last time I looked at this comic, I will have not known who Nick Fury was. Wow. I can guarantee that.
So he's jumping out from a flying clown car, and a clown, Krusty, agent of clown, CLOWN, keeping law and order with novelty items. He's jumping from the flying car. Mr. Teeny, no, don't touch that switch. It opens he's fallen. He's got a shock buzzer on his hand. He's shouting, yeah. Phew, lucky I'm wearing my acronym suit. With these wings, I can glide to safe. Acronym being spelled out like an acronym.
Yes. Krusty lands on a skyscraper. Good thing we're right above the clown testing tower. I can just land on the roof. It's a very, very tall building. There are clouds like 20 floors down from where he's landed. Hey, a lucky penny, he says, grabbing for a penny on the floor. Ooh, a bobby pin. Woo, a cosmic energy cream pie cannon. If I hadn't bent down, I would have been creamed. It's firing too fast. Can't keep up. So these pies are being fired at him, but he's not knocked from the stadium to his death building.
Thank God.
And the pies then explode, and Krusty is killed.
The end.
And then the end. Inside, this woman who we're calling Miss says, "Oh no, only his nose remains," as a red sort of thing bounces into the room. Must it come to this? The one who made us laugh now makes us cry. Family Guy. Says Miss. Quit crying over spilt clown, says a shadow walking through the door with one eye, and Krusty's her. Krusty, you're alive, says Miss. Of course, that blown up hunk of junk was just an Elmanop. Life model, not official person. Acronym. I like the acronym thing that's going on here.
Oh yeah.
You
Well,
mean
that's
the
the
new
shield thing, isn't it? Yeah.
You mean the new robot double designed to take your place on dangerous missions? What dangerous missions? I was just gonna have him substitute on my TV show so I could go to the track. Believe me, the way the audience has been lately, that's dangerous enough. Don't really get that. The
Yeah, I
audience
don't really
is
get that. But one of the thing about the life model decoys, as they're called in Shield, that was one of the big things. Like Nick Fury would be killed on a regular basis, and it would turn out that it was just
a decoy.
a robot.
Yes, indeed.
So we're still back in groovy 60s land. 2 hours later at Krusty Springfield pad, his assistant has a rose and she's writing things down. And for some reason he's all fuzzed out, but I think it's because of the wallpaper. Oh, my head's in bits, he says. This wallpaper has got to go. And they're listening to a Bleeding Gums Murphy CD, Sending the Clowns by Bleeding Gums Murphy, on a phony thing. And she squirts the rose and squirt goes in her eye. And then she throws sneezing powder right into Krusty's face. And then
Into his good eye.
Into his good eye. And he sneezes, and then we cut to some smoke from a Moe's Tavern ashtray. Then we cut to Krusty eating some gum and a mouth floating in the sky, and then a phone and Krusty. There's a note. Krusty he's been put on top of the page, but it's a drawing. Krusty, these anti-violence crusaders are at it again. Can we lose the gun here? How about a shot of you and Miss Penny Candy in a passionate embrace instead? Now, I'm pretty sure
that all has to be a reference to
that's all a reference to the same Nick Fury comic, the first issue, where I think he's it's all super psychedelic. Yeah, this is literally the same basic thing, right?
It's the same basic bear, homie.
Great. Oh, look at Nick there.
Look at him go.
It's a great splash page. We should just read other comics.
Let's just do every comic ever.
Especially these ones. Make money, get prizes. Anyway, you get the idea. It's a direct reference to there you go.
Oh yes.
It's a direct reference to that page, and obviously the gun is a phallic thing.
Yes, that's very good. I do like the note from the actual editor, basically saying like this comic, it's out of the, I believe the word is meta. It's out of the actual comic, isn't it? And saying
I never met an author I didn't like.
Exactly.
Later at Clown headquarters, Krusty walks over to what's he called? Major Incompetence?
Corporal Punishment.
I got your signal on my secret nose phone, Corporal Punishment. What's the situation? Your arch enemy Gabbo, the power-mad ventriloquist dummy, and his evil organization, World Order of Dummies, are plotting to take over the world. It's up to you to don't have some vacation time coming up, says goofy Krusty. Sideshow Mel has developed some super sophisticated new weapons for you to use on the mission. He's waiting for you over in the armaments division. Say, Krusty, what's with the eye patch? Eye what? Well, what do you know? No wonder everything looks so flat. Mr. Teeny must have stuck it on me while I was taking a nap. Takes that off, thus rendering it easier for the artist. Soon in Clown Armaments Division, here's your first device. It's called a flower, foliage light object with explosive rigging. The old squirting buttoner, eh? Miss Penny Candy loves these things. Blam!
Penny Candy.
Penny Candy. Actually, this one explodes when sniffed. Wouldn't be better if I threw it, he says.
Nice. So Mel's do they have a queue in Marvel? Or are they just sort of mixing the two things together here, where they have the guy come in and be like, here's the newest technology for you to try?
I don't know if they have like somebody in S.H.I.E.L.D. who does that specifically, or whether they just have generic scientists who bring him things.
I see.
I
like the usage. Yes, seems that way. I do like the usage of these sort of like E or F list crusty characters like Corporal Punishment and Miss Penny Candy.
Oh yeah.
They all sort of got phased out over time. Raheem, I think this predates Raheem, to be honest. I don't know, actually. That might be the same episode as Gabbo, so...
Ooh.
Nice, well remembered. These are pants, says Mel. Pants being parachute apparatus and tactical system. They're designed for landing in enemy territory. Pull to activate pants. Mr. Teeny pulls the pants. Whoosh. Is there any reason we keep Mr. Teeny around? Says a pantsless Krusty. His pants have now been turned into a parachute. Come on, I'll get you another pair. I've also got some new shoes for you, says Mel. He gives them shoes. These are codenamed Tootsies. Take one of these in emergency situations. They turn into a helicopter at the touch of a button. Like this. This time Krusty just presses the button himself and then gets sproinked into the air. Oh me gosh. All the change is falling out of me pockets. Nobody touch that. Mr. Teeny, put that down, shouts Krusty as Teeny robs him as he flies out the window. Hey, who left the window open? Says Krusty, being spun around outside.
But that's another one where the background stays constant across the four, but Krusty's moving.
And then a little bit of narration. Then, with every fibre of his stomach feeling queasy, the dynamic clone Ramrod hurtles out to sea.
Ramrod.
Exactly. And just 4 panels of Krusty flying through the air, which is pretty nicely done, but, not exceptionally done. And he says something about, what's that? And then it cuts to something completely different.
Yeah, I think this again is referring back to a particular... I remember these particular issues of Nick Fury. They were reprinted in in the English version of the X-Men comic when I was a kid. So I read those ones quite early on, and this one particularly stood out to me. The one that super psychedelic one, where it's kind of all a dream for him in the end. And maybe I'll find it later, but yeah, I think it's this one. So it goes through all kinds of super weird psychedelic stuff, and in the end it just turns out he was just making it all up.
I see. That's a clever, and I suppose in the 50s that wasn't too played out.
No, God no.
But it blew people's minds.
All of this stuff blew people's minds.
The glass one.
I just can't find the episode, but there's an issue particularly where it's super wild. But Steranko, it's good stuff, and so well done to the Vances. They knew their comics. And then in the next instant, out of nowhere, a powerful tractor being made of something secret I can't even think of it sucked me into a hidden aqua-gelatinous opening, much like when what's-his-name parted the Red Sea in that Bible movie. I was held captive by Gabbo in the secret... This is very Morty. I was held captive by Gabbo in the secret island fortress. Then you, Sideshow Mel and Mr. Teeny, called Punishment, burst in to rescue me in the clown car. Then a 1,000 clown army jumped out of the clown car, but Gabbo's robot marionettes massacred. Then Gabbo's orbiting space station crashed into the island. Boom, it was spectacular. We escaped in the clown car and watched the fortress sink into the abyss. The open bubbles up, and the air bubbles, you should have seen it.
That just recapped 7 of our seasons.
Pretty much. Scaramouche. I did see it. I was there, remember? Well, that's about it, guys. And it turns out that Krusty, that was all on a screen, and that was a pilot for a TV show. And Krusty's presenting it to the Itchy and Scratchy people. That was the worst pilot for the TV show I've ever seen. Forget with this spy stuff, Krusty, stick with comedy. Why didn't we get to see all the action you were talking about? We ran out of money. Those freaking helicopter shoes cost a bundle. But really, what did you think of it? We didn't want it before, and now we don't want it twice as much. We won't ever want it. They're gone. He smiles. Goofy. And so is my hope for a new show, Veep Veep. My nose phone is ringing. Hee hee, little do they suspect. And return the nose phone to the prop department. Bastard, he shouts. The end.
Yes, Krusty shouts an expletive. That's our first expletive of the Bongo, which I assume are going to get used quite a bit, to be honest.
Oh, it's a classic.
Yeah, this was a nice one. That was fine. I enjoyed the comicness of it. I don't think I realised as a kid, or until now, looking at it properly, that they did lean into the actual it being a comic thing, not just let's just do Simpsons, let's just do more Simpsons stories, but write them down. They did lean into the whole, in the way that the Simpsons parodied TV shows, the Bongo is parodying accurate things. I like that.
Comics, and I'd be interested to see, because I really think that Steranko one is pretty cool, that they parodied something that it's a classic comic, but it's not the most well known of comics. I could take or leave the noir thing, Maltese Falcon parody.
I enjoyed the story more than the last two. It just the ending once again fizzled out. But
I don't think it needed 20 odd pages. I think there was a considerable amount of padding.
yeah, you could have cut out like they basically did the same thing twice as well. They gathered everyone round like twice to talk about why it was or wasn't them.
I would have liked maybe three 10-page stories.
Yes, it's also very, very bold now that we've completely finished the issue. To not have you two main characters, or 3 out of the 5 main characters from the show appear at all in a single frame of this issue.
Once again, Marge did appear. Wipe that damned egg off of your faces, brothers O'Leary.
No.
It's very bold. I like the idea of that could never. Episode 3 of the show, they couldn't be like, let's just leave Homer and Marge out of this one entirely.
How many episodes do you think that even happens in right now?
I think from what I can remember, Marge didn't speak in one, and it's weirdly it's the one. I think it's the Gabbo one. I think it's the
Right.
Krusty. It's cancelled one. Marge has no dialogue.
How does she smell?
But she is in it still. She's still there. And then in the Halloween one with the kids, Homer isn't in that at all. But that's one segment out of 3.
Right.
I think it's happened a bit more recently. Like I feel like there's a few more episodes. Like this season, I've noticed like they'll like Lisa didn't have many lines last week, and like Maggie's barely been around, and so I think they're more comfortable doing it now.
Okay.
But issue 3 of the Bongo is very. I like the boldness of the idea of saying like, no, we don't even need to put them in the background of one panel. We don't even need to put them on the cover. We're going to do this entirely about other characters.
Yes. Although soon we'll get to issue 4, and then it's all been reversed when all of the Samsams family is right there. But that's it, a trek through issue 3, a nice Maltese Falcon parody and a homage to Steranko's Nick Fury. Good work.
A good issue, well executed, a good turnaround,
and well explained by us.
Yes, and we
Bang.
can only
back in bang, back in bang.
Can only
back
get better from here.
Bang, I'm back in bang, I'm back in bang. I'm back and back and bang home back. I'm back and bang, back and bang. I'm back and bang home.
Yeah, these bongos are long but worthy.
Long, lock and bang, back and long, lock and back and bang.
Il faut former une escadrille entièrement nouvelle. On prendra des hommes d'expérience. Je pense que ces jeunes gens ne refuseront pas un travail exceptionnel.